Oh boy. So earlier today, I read a leak for the last episode of She Hulk, episode 9. I didn't cover it here on the channel, but I was reading about what happens, and I was reading it, and I was like, there's no way this could be real. You know what I mean? I just didn't accept that it was real because it was so over the top stupid and such a. It's one of those, it sounds like a good idea and it sounds like a funny idea, but it's really not going to be executed properly, or at least it's not a good idea to do it now. And that's exactly what happened in this episode. Let's talk about She-Hulk episode 9. This is the season finale of She-Hulk. So basically, in the last episode, that company Intelligentsia revealed themselves and she had a big meltdown and she powered up and lost control. And as a result of that, she ends up getting locked up. So that's kind of where we pick it up with this episode. Now, the first sequence of this episode, which was like they were kind of making fun of the Lou Ferrigno show, the original Hulk show, except having her in it. That was cool. It was a dream sequence. And that would lead to her waking up in prison or in jail with this whole situation of them trying to figure out just what is going on with Intelligentsia, how'd they get her powers. So we saw that earlier in the season, right, when they took her powers. So it's building up to this big finale, and we have the Abomination showing up and the Hulk, Bruce Banner, and she's there. And basically, Todd is the leader of Intelligentsia. That's the big reveal. And he injects himself with the Hulk serum to give himself Hulk powers, which is something that is a little bit sort of, I don't want to say expected, but definitely hinted at. But then what happens is something unprecedented. This is going to be probably the most polarizing decision that Disney's made in quite some time, maybe in the entire MCU. She-Hulk breaks the fourth wall and she breaks the wall of Disney Plus. So she leaves Disney Plus. We see her literally leaving the app and going to Hollywood and complaining to the Marvel Studios Disney writers about the writing of the show. Going to what's supposed to represent Kevin Feige, but it's a robot called Kevin that's supposed to be the head of Marvel. She complains about the storyline in her own episode being, formulaic and, repetitive, and the storylines going into the finale. And as a result of that, she changes all the storylines, changes everything, and it just ends with her suing Todd. No big finale, no build-up. And the build-up they did have, she literally erased it by going to Kevin and complaining to him about the writing of her own show. So let me explain to you why this was really, really stupid. What they're trying to do is they're trying to, like something Deadpool does, which is break the fourth wall, which She-Hulk does in the comics too. That's nothing extraordinary for She-Hulk to do. She does it here as well. She talks to the audience. This is going far and away beyond anything. So there's tons of meta jokes here about the anti-SJW, anti-woke community on YouTube, which I was expecting, and it's there, even though they kind of missed the point. They didn't go too far with it, thankfully, because they could have gone real political, and they didn't, even though they could have. But they kind of, were walking that razor's edge. But then, it ends up being so meta that she complains about the writing of her own show, which in itself is lazy writing. You understand? Because we've seen this meta stuff done before. I mean, Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a great example of it. Go watch that movie if you haven't. It is Halloween month. But I cannot believe what I've just seen. So basically, they were building up this story about having her blood taken, and it's, we know where it's kind of going or where it's going to lead to, how dangerous it is. We get no payoff for that. The only payoff. So basically, we're getting a formulaic show that's building towards a payoff, and then the payoff that you get is that there is no payoff. The payoff that you get is that She-Hulk goes to Hollywood and complains about her show being formulaic and thus changes it by making it even more unsatisfactory by erasing everything they were building up. You can't build up something, whether it be formulaic or not, then in the last episode flip it. Now, there's going to be some people that love this. I guarantee you there will be. But I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a lot more people that hate it. And it's not just the anti-woke crowd. And I'm going to tell you why. They're going to hate it because they have a right to hate it. Because you can't have a show that is supposed to be somewhat of a sitcom, but also going somewhere, building up to something, and then you don't give them a payoff. Instead, what you're basically telling the audience is, ha ha, you got invested in this show. And there might be a minority of people who did, or maybe even a majority. Maybe there were people who actually were really invested in this show, right? So what they're telling them is, fuck you, you don't matter. We're going to tell this fucking one-note joke that only works once, and that's what they're going to try to play it up as. Oh, well, this is the only time we're going to do this. And in a way, not only do they break the rules of their own universe, because if She-Hulk can have her own show erased, and I'm sure Deadpool could as well, who else couldn't do it? What about these cosmic characters? Is she more powerful than they are? I mean, there's just a lot of problems with doing this. It would have been one thing if she had done this and then it wound up being like a dream sequence and then we actually give you a proper payoff. That would have been one thing. That's not what happened here. She literally complained about the writing, and instead of them giving us something better, it just comes to an end with her suing that Todd guy. That's it. That's literally it. There's no big action sequence. There's no like sort of drama. You know what I mean? Nothing. It's just like, and then Hulk comes back and reveals he has a son, and it's just out of left field. And like I said, the people, this is one of those things where I guarantee you, even people who like this are going to, down the road, a year, 2, 3 years down the road, they're going to look back on this and understand why it was a bad idea, why it was a waste of time. This made everybody who liked this show feel like they had their time wasted. And again, the joke itself is not the issue, because they could have done something like this at any point in the series and then, eventually have gone back. Instead, they literally just said, screw you, we're going to have a non-ending. That's not a good move. That's just not a good move. Ultimately, that right there, basically what they gutted their own show. It's almost like they realized, and I know this is not the case, but it's almost like they realized halfway through the show that it was sucking and they changed their minds. But you can't do that. You have to have the entire show mapped out, scripted out, and then you shoot it. That's how these TV shows work. It's not like, they're writing it every week. That's not how it works. They have the entire show done before it even airs, right? So they could always make adjustments. This felt like they were trying to be cute with it and make it seem super meta, and to me it just hurts the integrity of the show, and it hurts the build-up. I think a lot of people are going to feel like they had their time wasted with this, and it's too bad, because the first season, or not the first season, the first, part of the season was cute, and it was actually interesting, and then it just got lame, and it started to become what I think everybody was expecting the show to become. And that's not what I wanted. That's not what I was looking for. That's not why I watched the show. I don't know, man. Look, if you like this, I'm not going to say that you're dumb or anything like that, because, it is a clever thing to do, but it's not clever in a good way. It hurts the integrity of the storytelling to me. And I don't like when this is done in wrestling or anything else, especially when there's actually a non-finish. Like I said, if she had done this and then it led to an actual finish, an interesting one, it would have been one thing. But there was no finish. The cliffhanger and everything in the last episode, it was blown off. The fact that she got her blood taken like 3 episodes ago, it's ignored now. She literally wrote it out of the story. She literally wrote it out of her own story. Wow. This was the worst ending to a fucking Disney Plus show I've ever seen. I mean, just a terrible idea, and I don't understand how anybody could have found this to be satisfying. Like I mentioned before, there are some ways to do this and get away with it properly if they gave us a satisfying ending afterward. But they didn't. It just ended, and that's it. I I can't even I can't believe the leak is actually true, dude. That's wild. That is wild. What did you think about She-Hulk episode 9? We'll talk soon. Take care.